So I'm the first conservative Republican ever to represent that area. Okay? Now, since then, I've come up and been on the State Tribal Interim Committee since 2011, when I didn't win my elections, and if you understand that, I kept on running. I didn't win my re-election, I kept on running. I don't give up. So, bringing this forward to you right now, I'm looking at property owners here. I'm looking at property owners who are trying to figure out, how is this gonna help me? Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Right now, anybody who has fish below their property, or fish that comes from an irrigation that has anything to do with irrigation or man-made moved water, has the ability to be affected by this water compact. So, there are more reasons than just say it's my well, it's my irrigation water. You also have to look at those fish sources, because when we go back to look at the original Hellgate Treaty, the tribal members, and I will add this, and the citizens of Montana in common had the right to fish, but the tribal members could fish anywhere. So, we bring that forward. This is where the issue comes about, where there's 10,000 lawsuits for property here in western Montana, because under that original treaty, they were given the right to fish. Well, I can bring a lot of history in, I can bring a lot of arguments in, but what it comes down to is we got to look at what's going on today. And one of the things and this is a side detail, but it's being on the State Tribal Interim Committee, I got to explain one thing about that committee. Its original assignment, it was authorized for one session, but its original assignment was to go to the reservations and see how the state could fix jurisdictional issues between all the reservations and the state of Montana. 22 years later, and that's an estimate on my part, we have not fixed one jurisdictional issue in conflict with the state of Montana and any of these tribes. So this last 2 years, I have visited every single reservation. I've done that multiple sessions, and it's just absolutely amazing how prosperous the Salish Kootenai tribe is, and how many government projects and government contracts that are flowing through there, and the amount of money that is flowing through that tribe. Now, they have a bank of lawyers who I would estimate actually wrote the Salish Kootenai Water Compact for the federal government. Okay? I can't say that for certain, but the way it's written and the way it's transferred down, that would be my assumption. So, anybody who's a property owner has to watch out for their property. And I would go so far as, when you file your papers and you have a seasonal pond on your property, that's one of your assets. That's one of those things you got to record. I would like to bring up something else that shows you how imperative it was for the federal government to shove or ram this water compact through, even though they didn't have a proper hearing. The Fort Belknap tribe, which I visited like 5.5 months ago, 4 months ago actually, they have a water compact that was voted on by the state legislature 12, 14 years ago. It is still languishing in Washington, D.C. Okay? It's been sitting there all this time. When you visit these reservations and you look at it, the Fort Belknap tribe, by all means, is the most desperate for the funding that would come from the federal government approving that water compact. Yet, why does it sit there? Why did the CSKT Water Compact come through and be just basically ramrodded through the federal government? What is the collusion? I say there's collusion in this thing. I'm a legislator, I'm supposed to represent people, and I'm supposed to represent tribal members also. But what is the collusion that's going on that I feel in my heart? I'm not saying I know it, I'm just saying I feel it in my heart. And that is, when you look at it, it's about the federal government overstepping its authority and claiming some of these water rights and waiting for the citizens of the state of Montana to fail to file these protests. If you fail to file these protests, and you have to adjust to this toolbox, and you have to follow this, but when you fail to follow these protests, you're advocating something of your property to the federal government, but it's not going directly to the federal government, it's going to the tribe, it's going to the federal government. So, my thought in this whole process is, if in doubt, file. The main reason for filing is that you will have your thumb in that file, and if something happens, you're there. After the last, you'll be there, you'll be represented. Now, I've heard people are saying that it costs, that lawyers in Kalispell will come down and they will help you file your papers, and it costs like $350. Well, if you don't know how to do the paperwork, that's some of the cheapest money you're ever going to spend, but I hate lawyers in the first place, so if you can figure out how to do it, more power to you. But if I understand it right, there are lawyers going around the Bitterroot recruiting people to file their papers, and I've heard people being quoted $1,500. And this is lawyers recruiting, which is a violation of their oath.
All right. Ambulance chasers.
So this tells you that there's something going on between the state and the tribe. Now, if I was to do anything to impress upon you to file your paperwork, get this done, I would just let you understand, working in the legislature, and what my committee is appropriations. This is where we spend the money, okay? I'm the one who ended up in that committee. They were going to give away $5 million to the Water Compact Commission, and I said, no, we're going to take some of that money and we're going to reserve it for the citizens of the state of Montana. And this mainly affects the reservation, but I'm sitting there going, I want to put $200,000 available to anybody who wants to file a MEPA, a Montana Environmental Policy Act, or a NEPA, so it doesn't come out of your pocket. Well, right now, the tribe is lining ditches up in the Jocko, which is an area on the Flathead Indian Reservation, and no one has been able to access this money, but there's lots of complaints. And here we come again, is the state of Montana has created such an intricate process of filing and paperwork. And here we are, as a group, pushing information to you so you can actually file these documents. I would really be I say I'm honored to be part of this, just so we can defend your property right.